seperti Siti Nurhaliza binti Muhammad Amin DM02190005-17. My part is a free will and liberty. Okay. Free will is the ability to choose between a variety of possible action plans. This is closely related to the concept of responsibility, prejudice, sin, and other considerations. This apply only to freely chosen action. In addition, this is also related to the concept of advice, persuasion, judgment, and prohibition. Example: the option to dive into the water is a form of free will. For liberty, liberty is generally understood as a term that emphasizes the ability of an individual to act accordingly to his or her own will. Accepting freedom as the absence of consent or external threat is a condition in which an individual is protected from tyranny and use of power on a regular basis without limit. For example, the freedom to choose a party candidate.
My name is Nurik Amara Beti Jamaluddin, DM03190032. My part is freedom of speech and expression and freedom of rights. Okay, first I will talk about freedom of speech and expression. Freedom of speech is described as a freedom to express opinion and idea without limitation. It one liberty to speak without being censored or limited. Freedom of expression, which is a synonym of freedom of speech, is used to describe not only one liberty to verbal speech, but also freedom of any act of receiving or sending information or opinion without considering the medium of communication used. Okay, freedom of rights is divided into two. One is freedom of education and another one is freedom of property. Okay, freedom of education is the rights of education is the rights in respect of education and specifically provides that there shall be no discrimination against any citizen on the ground only of religion, race, descent, or place of birth in the administration of education and in the provision of public authority financial aid for the maintenance or education of pupils or students. Yet, special education has only been introduced for individuals suffering from certain category of special needs who are assessed as educable as defined in the rights of disabled person, which state that there is a necessity of assisting disabled person to develop their abilities in the most varied field of activity and of promoting their integration as far as possible in the normal life. Now, rights of property. Rights of property is whoever owns property in the country enjoys protection from the court to their property. In this case, property here does not refer to land and real property. It refers also to movable property and money and intellectual property may all be said in encompassed to subject. A person's right to property is not absolute and its property can be taken away from his in accordance with the law. Law here includes fundamental rules of natural justice such as right to be here, which can however be taken away by enacted law. That's all. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Natika Syedamiti Syagamal, DM03190085. I'm from batch 17. Today, I would like to explain my part, which is freedom of choice, autonomy, and external freedom. So the first one, freedom of choice, is represent something more fundamental than power. It also represent the right of individual to be free in human relation, to make their own decision, to be free from the power of others, and to be able to choose how one desire by using service or property from being concerned by others. Moreover, freedom of choice means that person's power or right to choose his or her own action and pattern of life without constraint or indirect, provide that she or he cannot act so as to violate the freedom of choice of others. For example, the freedom of choice is an individual choose to get married or not, or as a student, one who want to choose what course in interest. Second, autonomy is freedom in leading something or making decision. Example that practice the autonomy of freedom are the leader and leader of the country. Next, autonomy is also person using one own ability to do something. For example, a leader use his power to convert the country to ensure that state of the country in order without interruption and without changing any national law. However, there are three autonomy: moral autonomy, personal autonomy, and political autonomy. Moral autonomy is usually controlled by one ability to negotiate and implement moral law and observe the order of others. Personal autonomy to be ability to define oneself and take action in one's life. And political autonomy is to bring one's decision to be respect and observation in the political context. That is, leader must always think about the property of the people to ensure the well-being and harmony of the country. In addition, leader must use their power fairly and equitable to avoid misunderstanding between leaders. Third, external freedom is the normal and general freedom that is expected in everyday life. In most countries throughout history, they implement immunity from improper intervention by the authorities, especially by the government. This government freedom must to be monitored and taken by the people so that the leader cannot interfere in something the people do. In addition, the leader should monitor and guide against any interference from outside parties with malicious intent and to overthrow the government he takes. However, this situation allow one to manage reality constitutionally, which allowed him to be power without having to use power is external freedom. But external freedom required internal freedom to exist. I have do some research which is external freedom have positive and negative. For positive is an external means that achieving our goals and fulfilling our desire or interests. This means positive condition is our environment, such as money to pay our way, school often to everyone, or accessible medical resource and stuff, such as. For negative external freedom, the absence of the external pressure and constraint that prevent or hinder us from doing what we want or choose to do. Negative condition interference with freedom of action significantly. There are four such as law, institutional prohibition, strict intimidation, and coercive or secret pressure from others. The absence of external load is usually directly correlated with an increase in option for choice and action. That's all from me. Thank you, sir.
Assalamualaikum, I'm Siti Nurina binti Mohsin, DM 0319054. Today I will present internal freedom and self-freedom. For internet freedom, there have two types, which is positive and negative. For positive, internet freedom is consists of the effective presence of internet factor that contribute to people fulfilling their goal, desire, and interest, being self-reliant and self-directed, their own master, and being in control of their own life and destinies. Consists of moral sense of right or wrong, emotions, a motive, desire, purpose, interest, and affections, and the ability to make our own choice for ourselves and to identify with our own purpose and project and the inner resources for acting as we are to act. Central Dutch philosophy Benedict Spinoza identified it with being irrational and controlling our expressing our one emotions. Genetic and neuromuscular condition involving pain, weakness, disability, or athletic activity may also determine negative internet freedom. And second is self-freedom. Self-freedom is an inner state of being which has to be cherished in every moment of life. Getting ourselves with our own freedom is the greatest feeling one can ever have. We giving ourselves with this precious feeling is a never-ending question with all of us. The freedom which is derived from heart is more beautiful than the freedom derived from conscience. This is because we as a human being tend to utilize our child go state for inner judge and alert ego state for our conscience. When we operate more from alert ego state, the amount of freedom which we give ourselves is very less, as there too much intelligence domination in analyzing life where the chain plane is lost. It is a pandemic combination to balance between our inner judge and our conscience.
Bismillah. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. So my name is Muhammad Fadhal Kamal bin Fauzi, DM031960 from Batch 17. Okay, today I will explain about political freedom, spiritual freedom, and collective freedom. First freedom I will explain is political freedom. Political freedom is every people must have freedom in politics to be a leader in some place or country. Therefore, people must have freedom to choose their leaders in their town because the people have freedom to choose and to speak about what they want to our country and our life. It is because it happened because people was saw what the leaders do to the country, what happened to the leaders do to the country and their people's life. Bad things, good things, everything. People have freedom to sound and to speak what happened to their life. Okay. Secondly, is spiritual freedom is like spirit come to another people to give strong, be a good, brave and good person to another people and to their life in future. So and they will get a spirit is from God to give brave and strong to speak and standing to other people, for people to give anything to do what they want to do in their life and be a respect from another people. So thirdly and lastly is collective freedom is freedom like people can do what they want to do because people have freedom to choose what they want to do. It is because people can do what they want when freedom is came must in their body on their mindset. Collective freedom is can make people do what they want without any circumstances dangerous. So people have do what they want by law or rule to save and to secure their life. Okay, thank you.
For the responsibility meanings is being held accountably for our actions. It might involve figuring out how to get paid our work, owning our mistake, or having other count on us. In responsibility, there are two contexts, which is legal and the moral responsibility. For the more legal responsibility, the obligation to answer for an act done and to repair any injury it may have caused. This obligation arises without any contract, either on the part of the party bonded to repair the injury or of the party injured. It is a general rule that no one is answerable for the act of another unless he has, by some act of his own, concurred in them, but when he has sections those act either explicitly or by implications, he is responsible. And for the moral responsibility is maybe individual, meaning each person in the company or anything is accountable for doing what is right, or communal responsibility, which is involve our personnel. And moral responsibility also where the point is to indicate that the person have some duty or obligation, some responsibility to which that person is required by some standard to attend. In this sense, we say, for example, that a lawyer has a responsibility to behave in certain ways according to certain standard to his client. This entry, however, is concerned not with account that suffices people responsibility in the sense of duty and obligations, but rather with account of whether a person bears the right of relation to her own actions and their consequences so as to be properly held accountable for them. And for the responsibility and justice, there are good and bad. For the good, for responsibility, deserving a good need to entire responsibility, mugging victim deserve a compensations, patient deserve a medical care, everyone deserve a respect, even a criminal deserve a fair trial. And then for the justice, or not only for the justice, maybe responsibility and justice are same, but there are different words, but actually they was the same. For bad, deserving a bad does seem to require responsibility as in punishment. Thank you.
Hi Fauzan, for second subtopic is responsibility, which have 4 types. Today I would like explain about role and casual responsibility. Firstly, is a role responsibility is the duty of person to do various things related to be a particular role in society. For example, an accountant should be responsible in managing all the finance in the business so that there are no losses or irregularities in the company. So secondly, secondly is casual responsibility. Is what causes something to happen. For example, road user must follow or obey the law of the road. It is because to save another people life from any dangers or damage can be damages their life. There are another people who use the road. If non-compliance will be taken legal action, then as a road user should be responsible for driving prudently and carefully, as many lives use the road. Okay, thank you.
For liability responsibility means legal responsibility for a person's action or omission. The failure of a person or entity to discharge such a liability makes it open to prosecution for damage that occur or caused to be made, such as in breach of contract or breach of law. And for the capacity responsibility, refer to the responsibility for the development of disability, examples such as depression, alcoholism, or neurosis, whereas capacity activation refer to the responsibility for the activation of disabilities in situations where disability can produce negative outcomes.